Is that good or bad? She knows you.
Great. Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, August 16th, 2022 regularly scheduled Selectmen's meeting. Tonight we're gonna start with our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we will be using an amended agenda. There is an amendment on here to discuss the sanitary district's pipe and their easement. Something that came up last minute with a potential advance in the schedule for completing that project, so we will have that added here tonight. But first up, we're going to have a public hearing to prioritize use of ARPA funds for infrastructure needs. Would anybody from the public like to speak on this at this time? Seeing none?
Do you wanna just go over the list?
Yeah, well, we can close the public hearing, we can go over it.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second. All those in favor? So, you wanna just do a quick review and?
I think so,
Yeah.
just so the public's aware of what you're doing. Do you wanna do it, John?
No, you can, Bill.
All right, I gotta find it, that's the problem. Thank you, Bob. So what we did was, a brief description is, originally, the federal government was saying when Arpa came out that you had to use it basically for wastewater infrastructure or water infrastructure or broadband expansion and projects. At the urgence of many states, counties, and municipalities, they changed the rules so that it was easier to use and it could be used for basically municipal infrastructure type projects. That's most beneficial probably to the taxpayers if it's used for projects that have already been called out in the capital plan by the board that need to be done. So we went back in and called out, Jody in finance and Carol and the rest of the department heads looked at all the projects that we have pending, and most of them are partially funded, but they weren't happening because they weren't fully funded yet for one reason or another. And so together the department heads developed this list, and it really, I think, gets the town through a lot of the projects that are fairly urgent projects. And the board at the last meeting indicated they were very interested. It would help fund guardrail repairs throughout the town. There's several guardrails that need to be repaired and they just end up being left because there's no money. There's some money, there was a FEMA grant after the Halloween storm, and the total project cost was 1.5 million. So almost all that money is secured, and all we needed was a match of 60,000. So it funds that. I'll go through these much quicker and not describe all the finances. East Pier and related improvements to the East Pier. The Route 1 bridge over Bragdon Brook needs to be repaired. It's getting more and more serious. So that's called out and to be dealt with. The Wabanek, and you can all laugh at me if I pronounce that wrong, North Seawall. The Coles Hill emergency road repairs. Public safety, there was gonna be an expanded parking lot originally. It had to get cut because of lack of funds. This would now fund that. There's a significant lack of parking there. It's a fairly small lot. The Station 2 sprinkler system, which you budgeted money for, but the estimates came in higher. And you had said in the last budget that that was a priority for you, that this will take care of that. And at the Recreation Department, they've been without water almost all summer. Whenever we're in a dry spell, they lose their water, and they've got hundreds of kids running around there with no water. So they've had to bring in bottled water and whatnot. And they've had to use porta potties. And so anyway, this will fund that. So we're looking to have the board authorize those projects.
Alright,
So the full amount of $1,128,103.63 gets used on these projects.
That's right.
That's
And
right.
if for some reason one project doesn't get done or it comes in lower, then we'll have Jody back in here saying, you know, you've got some money left over and you could reallocate that money. You'd have to hold a new public hearing, but most of it will get spent on this, might all get spent, and this, then it'll be over.
I think this is great. I think this is a great list.
yes, it's very well put together. Certainly seems like it'll address a lot of needs that we have around town.
The department heads worked well together on it. They all had input on each other's proposals and try to work it out so that there are certain ones that are prioritized, and that's what's in here.
Oh, good.
Excellent. Anything from the board?
I think it's great. Great use of the money for the taxpayers.
We have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept and grant this, that we do the $1,128,103.63 from the Arpa funding to these projects that were just stated to everybody.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Next up, we have Michael E. McDermott, DBA Mike's Clam Shack, Inc., 1150 Post Road, Wells, applicant for a full-time malt wine and spirits liquor license. Anyone from the public? Seeing none?
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Next, we have Michael E. McDermott, DBA Mike's Clam Shack, Inc., 1150 Post Road, Wells, application for a special entertainment permit. Anyone from the public? Seeing none?
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Next, we have the town manager's report. Bill?
Yes, just a couple of things brief, and I'm having a hard time again finding the right notes that I made. But one thing I wanted to do was thank Rebecca and all the organizations involved in Harbor Fest. Rebecca is the organizer of that now, and she did this on short, you know, usually it takes the better part of a year to plan, and she had, how much time did you have?
About 4 months.
Yeah, and Cindy was nice enough, who used to run it, to come in, and they met and were able to compare notes, and it was a very hot day, so it wasn't the best attended, and that's what happens with festivals when it's 95 degrees. But I think it's built a good foundation for her going forward to run that. And that's one of the things that she'll be doing. She'll be here at these meetings with you, helping you with what you had requested, and she'll run events, and then she's the one that handles the social media platforms. So you saw me, what I did in the pipe breaks and stuff is I roughed out a press release, she polishes it, and then puts it out immediately, and it's worked very well. So I want to thank you for that. I had one other thing and I can't remember what it is. I'm sorry. I've got like 3 agendas in front of me. But you'll live without it. We'll move on.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Bill. And yeah, Harbor Fest did come together nicely. Everybody did a good job with it down there. So yeah, it's all good. Been well done. Let's thank all of our volunteers for coming out and helping out with that. So next, for the first time this evening, we have open to the public. It's a 10-minute period of time set aside for the public to speak. We ask each person to keep it to 3 minutes. Anybody from the public like to speak at this time? Seeing none. We'll move on to current agenda items. First of which is review and action on accounts payable and payroll warrants.
I move to approve and sign the accounts payable warrant dated August 16th, 2022, in the amount of $2,481,467.92, and the general assistance warrant dated August 16th, 2022, in the amount of $1,722.04.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. Next, we have update, discussion, and action on committees, projects, issues, purchases, and personnel. The first is a discussion and action to schedule a public hearing on a proposed ordinance amendment to Chapter 212-6, Vehicles and Traffic, on closure times for town parking lots. So a little background on this is looking to change the times that the parking lots close and close them earlier, correct?
Yeah, at El Pond, there's been some problems with some later in the evening activities that has been bothering the neighbors. And the way we have it posted now and approved by the board at some point in time was that it had to close by 11. And it's a somewhat isolated area, but there are residents right there. And so I sent them to Gerald, and he recommended that we change it to 9 o'clock instead of 11. And also suggested that whenever they suspect something is not right there, that they immediately call 911.
So this would apply to all the parking lots in town?
I don't believe so.
Well, it looked like it on the information.
Yeah, and I believe it
Yeah.
captured the eastern shore as well, off the end of Atlantic Ave.
Drake's Island parking lot?
This is a public hearing, right?
Yeah,
No, I
we
mean, this
disagree
is just a
with
scheduled
we need to
public hearing.
advance
We can have
and
that
we can
discussion.
get answers to you for the next meeting.
We,
Because my guess is you don't want that at every parking lot,
I don't want it at all.
even at that one.
Right.
Okay, but you can hold your public hearing and then.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I mean, it's a public hearing, so.
Sure.
Let's schedule it.
Well, we have a motion.
I move to schedule a public hearing on September 6th, 2022 at 6 p.m. 208 Sanford Road on a proposed ordinance amendment to chapter 212-6 on closure times for town parking lots.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Next, we have discussion and action to schedule a public hearing on a proposed ordinance amendment to chapter 212-7 vehicles and traffic to designate Riverside Drive as a one-way street. So, any discussion surrounding this?
No, that's great of you.
Do we have a
I
motion?
move to schedule a public hearing on September 6th, 2022 at 6 p.m. 208 Sanford Road on a proposed ordinance amendment to chapter 212-7 to designate Riverside Drive as a one-way street.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0, thank you. Next, we have discussion and action to schedule a joint public hearing with the planning board on a proposed ordinance amendment regarding non-conforming mobile home parks lot size requirements to be in conformance with state statute. Any discussion surrounding this? Outside of Kathy, you had the question. Mike, is that supposed to be 6 p.m. or 7 p.m.?
7 p.m.
Okay,
That was the
so that's
question, because I had
intentional.
corrected it to 6, thinking it was just okay, so you want it at 7? We want it at 7, okay. I move to schedule a joint public hearing with the planning board on September 12th, 2022 at 7 p.m. 208 Sanford Road on a proposed ordinance amendment regarding non-conforming mobile home park lot size requirements.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0, thank you. Next, we have a discussion and action to schedule a public hearing on conveyance of utility easements and temporary construction easements to the Wells Sanitary District in accordance with Article 17 of the June 14th, 2022 annual town meeting. Any discussion surrounding this? Bill, you want to give us a?
Yes, so we were successful in getting the contractors, or Nick was, in getting the contractors to come early. The picture is up on your screen there. And it'll run that new pipe. First, they've got to mobilize into the far end of the lot there, past the red line, so their contract calls for them to block it off. Since, you know, the sanitary district's been begging them to move up the schedule, which was originally October 11th. So now that they're coming, we hate to say, no, don't come. We've had so many problems with the pipe. Like I said, Chris is here if you've got any technical questions on how the parking is allocated. But basically, this item on your agenda is the easement that was approved at town meeting. It does not have to be fully implemented before they mobilize and start the project. It's our land and we can permit them to do so. They're the ones that needed the easement for their purposes. So this starts to follow through with that. I would recommend, it's completely up to you, but you'd have to have a special meeting to hold it on the 24th. I would hold it on September 6th. It's not an emergency situation. So I wouldn't have an extra meeting, but that's up to you guys on, you could have a special meeting a week from tomorrow if you wanted to move it along fast.
I I think that sounds pretty good in my opinion, and the one thing I would like to see though is just that we have just a motion and a vote, just sort of giving our blessing to them going ahead and moving along with it, just so there's no question about that.
It's not a bad idea. So you support September 6th?
I would.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think we should change.
As long as it's not gonna hold them up, I mean,
That'll
it's
be on our
crucial that it
next
gets
regularly
done.
scheduled
Not gonna
meeting,
hold 'em up.
so.
Nick called me today. He's waiting. I'm sure he'll appreciate that you make a motion and authorize them to go forward.
So we want it on September 6th.
Yes.
So are we closing half the lot? I support this going forward, but it obviously needs to be done, but are we gonna be closing half of that parking lot next week?
Yeah, right away.
Okay.
It's actually Thursday, this
Thursday,
Thursday, and they would start mobilizing. They're moving a piece of equipment to their property on Drake's Island tomorrow, and then Thursday they would start to come in here. The contract authorizes them to eventually put up a construction fence across there. Chris, why don't you come up to the podium and just talk briefly about the allocation of spaces, if you could, so they understand, and the public starts to understand about how that gets handled. There will be some disappointed people who in the next 2 weeks, try to go to the beach and they can't get a spot down here. But Nick, talk about that.
Yeah, so,
Sorry, Chris.
oh, it's fine. Yeah, so basically, they wanna come in Wednesday night, we would go in late at night and we would cone off the parking lot and put no parking signs. And then Thursday morning, Earth will come in with their fencing and actually set up the barricade, and then with 2 dedicated construction vehicle entrance and exit. And then we'd have to cone off a section so vehicles could turn around in the same direction that they would normally do that. So parking wise, roughly 125 spaces will be lost, as it says, and we'll have roughly 130 spaces remaining. 80 of those are pay by the hour. So that's what we'll have left over. And once they close it down on Thursday, it's closed until the project's done. And originally they wanted to close the parking lot all the way down to the bathrooms. And we met down there this morning and I was like, guys, what's the minimum you need to get this done? So that's where we stand.
We could potentially give them a little more later after,
Yeah.
In a month. But
Right.
right now it's tough. But the ones, the number of spaces that are used by permit holders, is that currently 50?
So the Eastern Shore portion, which is right, so this right here is the
Marina.
the yellow spots in the marina. So there's 15 spaces for taxpayer parking and 15 mooring holders. And that is Saturday and Sunday. Then during the week, it changes 10 mooring holders and 20 taxpayer stickers. In the Eastern Shore portion of it, there's 20 dedicated spots to taxpayers that are unaffected by this closure. So,
We're doing our best to minimize the impact. Some people are gonna be disappointed, but this stuff needs to get done. It's an emergency
Well,
situation.
Right, I mean, we could, the whole of the beach could be closed down if we had if it kept on going the way it was going, so.
Yeah.
This is the only way to at least keep the beach open, maybe can't have as much parking spaces, but.
Yeah, the situation at current is untenable. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. In sewer district, this has been a long process. They started planning this a number of years ago. They had to figure out how to finance it, which means working it into their budget. Then they had to plan it and they had to get the permits and a lot of consideration. I had the pleasure of being involved in that process, and there was a lot of consideration given both by Nick and their board of trustees to the town in terms of not disrupting the parking. But unfortunately, the situation, as we all know, has deteriorated in the last couple of months, and it's a liability for not only the district but for the town. So we don't have an option. It needs to be done, and they will need that space.
So when will we be closing it?
late Wednesday night, this Wednesday, and then, and then Thursday it'll be closed.
Was there any sort of temporary shuttle service we could set up and utilize off-site
right.
parking in the interim, just until we get through Labor Day?
To be honest, I don't know what you have that could be used for that. At least staff knows.
I mean, the schools or the harbor parking.
Yeah, I don't think the
But-
schools are gonna wanna free up school buses now.
Right.
There's no way that Hannaford would allow us to use that upper park, just up where they don't park anybody, you know, it's just that open
We'd
space.
still have to shuttle, right?
Yeah, we'd have to shuttle.
I don't know if we have a shuttle.
Could we contact
could-
community action
yeah,
for the use of a
Get
trolley?
a couple of trolleys or something, you know, that you could,
And I'll say, I monitor the parking lots daily, and the only time we'll run into an issue in the next couple of weeks is on the weekends. During the week, like today, was a fairly busy day, and I probably could have, if we were parking people, we could have consolidated them all to this area. That everybody just spreads out. I mean, the whole top half was empty.
Because
So
weekends are gonna be your worst time.
right,
yeah.
right, it's the
Between now and
weekends.
Labor Day, then
Yeah.
after that, it's
Right,
probably gonna be catch as catch can, but
right.
Which is only 2 more weekends.
yeah.
Maybe we could look into just see if we could.
We can ask, I would guess that trolley is probably busy and running its route on the weekend, whether they, no?
They're not running, they don't have
Yeah.
enough drivers this year, so we'd have to try to find a driver for the trolley, but.
Well, let us work on that tomorrow and Thursday.
How about Ledgmere?
Yeah.
This is
Forget
a
it.
school, sorry, that's a school bus company.
School bus company.
Sorry,
yeah.
no, like,
Still CDL, aren't they?
yes, yeah, but they have drivers, and I know this time of year, a lot of the bus drivers are,
It
my mother's a
wouldn't,
bus
it
driver for
wouldn't
years,
be
they're
too
way off.
expensive for us to contract with somebody. That might be the simplest way to do it. I mean, we could probably get Public Works to drive the trolley if we had to, but if there's a company that does it locally, we'll look into that. I'm not gonna promise, but we'll spend the
Yeah.
next 2 days trying
Actually, I
to
think
do that.
it's Ledgmere, but they're owned by STA, I'm fairly certain.
It would be nice if we at least made an effort to see if we could do that and,
Chris, do you think you could spend a little time trying to arrange that for the next 2 weekends?
A trolley service,
Yeah, no, Ledgmere.
Ledgmere.
Or trolley or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Ledgmere, I think, would be easier because we call them, we wanna do business with them, we'll
Right.
pay them.
right. I think is a pickup point. That's where we'd have to. So we can work on that. But,
Okay.
yeah. All right.
Is there any potential for putting up maybe some signs tomorrow, just advising people that it's gonna be closed?
Yeah. So I'll post with your blessing, and I'll post stuff on probably on social media, and I can get some signs down there.
And Rebecca can as well.
Yeah, and it'll be very clear once you get down there what's going on.
Well, I think he's
So-
saying maybe we could warn them a day ahead of time.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
I mean, I think especially letting the motels know that, so
Yep.
they could let their folks know too, that
Okay.
the beaches are gonna be,
Yeah.
or the park is gonna be closed for,
Right.
that's not gonna affect the parking at Drake's Island at all, though, right?
No, they've assured us that it's not. They're going to use their access road.
Well, so that's where they're gonna be coming.
Yeah, they have about 750 feet of pipe that they're going to be putting together on their access road. So, yep.
It's gonna be quite a project.
But much needed, I mean, it's gotta get done.
So you can, if someone made a motion to authorize the sanitary district to begin construction of that pipe using a portion of our parking lot as shown, that'd be a good motion.
Yeah, and do you wanna do 2 separate motions, or do we wanna do
just,
one combined? The blessing and also scheduling the public hearing for the
Doesn't matter
easement?
to me.
just,
You
okay.
wanna take a crack at it?
Sure, I make a motion that we contact the sewer district and say that we approve of them going in and starting to set up for their repairs and replacements, and that we allocate a certain section of the parking lot for that. And that we'll be holding a public hearing on September 6th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Do you wanna put 5 p.m.?
If it's September 6th, let's do it 6 p.m.
Okay, September 6th at 6 p.m., 208 Sanford Road on the conveyance of easements to the Wells Sanitary District.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0, thank you.
We'll make sure we change the public hearing notice before we sign.
That's right, yeah.
Next, we have discussion and action on updates, personnel and committee assignments, resignations and issues.
Thank you.
The first being resignation of Alex Martin, Deputy Assessor.
Yeah, that's a big loss right now, we're heading into the revale. But, you know, I've told you that we need to pay attention to our salary scale as compared to the region. And so he's going to MRI. And MRI has agreed to allow us to contract him a couple of days a week until we fill the position. They need him for other projects too. But he got a significant pay bump. And so, anyway, you'll be dealing with this going forward when we get done the report with Betsy. Mike is aware of that report, and you guys will have to sort out those issues as you go forward, you know,
Is
employee
the-
pay.
I don't know if I can ask this, but is the bump in pay comparable positions, or is this an advance in a position as well?
Well, let me ask Keely to come up. You don't wanna say anything personal about him, but you
Right.
could, is the position equal to what he has now, or is it more? I think it's more.
So it's my understanding when you're employed by MRI, he's gonna be a contracted assessor in other towns.
Oh, okay,
Right.
okay, thank you, Keely.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that information, Bill. It's very helpful.
And by the way, I should mention, apparently the staff has been doing exit interviews right along, so if I led you to believe that that isn't happening. And from what a few of them report, those that have lost employees, that money seems to be an issue of. It's never, you're not usually the only issue, but yeah.
Well, it's, you know, sometimes you can't do anything about it, but it's nice knowing, and, you know, a topic of conversation when this comes up, when decisions need to be made, what the reasons were, and if there's a recurring pattern, then it'd be nice to be able to do something about it.
And I think in this particular field is a shortage, is there not? Yes, okay.
You almost have to, in some fields like this and in codes,
Yeah.
you have to make them. You create code officers is what you do, and you know, Alex worked here under Keely, got his certification while he was here, and you can't, you know, at some point they're gonna move on. Basically, the municipalities feed employees to each other.
That's happened several times, right, Keely here?
Yeah, she's sick of it.
I'm thinking it's like a revolving door.
Alex is the third assistant I've trained in 4 years.
Yeah.
So there is a pattern here that I'm seeing. I'm either a really good teacher, or we need to pay more.
You appear to be very good at it.
Thanks. I really wouldn't like that credit though.
Thank you, Keely. Well, next we have discussion and action to accept donations and bequests. The first being $539.74 from various donors to the Wells Harbor Shellfish Lab. We have another for $33 from various donors to the Wells Public Library. Do we want to do them one, or do we want to do
I'll
one?
do it, it says all it.
All right, yeah, all right, great. The next we have $25 from John and Carol Finn to the Wells Public Library for purchase of children's books in memory of Bradley Morse. Next, we have donation of a beach wheelchair from Randy Shockey to the Wells Fire Department.
I move to accept the generous donations and write letters of thanks to the donors.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Next, we have discussion and action on approving minutes of the August 2nd, 2022 Selectmen's meeting. Anybody see anything that need to be changed?
Scott?
Yes, Scott.
Look good to me.
I move for approval of the August 2nd, 2022 Selectmen meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. Next, on to new business. For the second time this evening, we have open to the public for 10 minutes. Anyone in the public like to speak at this time? Do you have anybody on?
We've got two public comments here. The first is from Tracy Moulton. She says, closing parking lots so early is a problem for those of us who fish. And I believe she's referring to the
Okay. Well, that's information that you can use as this item moves forward. Yeah,
Then we have, is that it for that
yeah,
comment?
yeah.
From Nancy Pino, she wants to know for the beach parking, what about people who are going to park on Atlantic or the side streets? Will the police be on hand to control this?
Well, the police just left the meeting. But we are constantly patrolling those areas, and it's a good point. I'll make sure that they know that they should keep an eye if if some of that displaced parking starts to drift into Atlantic Avenue and disrupt the residents there, so we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you.
And that's all we have for online comments so far.
Excellent.
That was nice, thank you.
All right, well, thanks. Next, we'll move on to good news. Phil.
I didn't have anything tonight, and the coach isn't here, so I don't know.
Well, I guess there's some good news. Football started again, and I'm
Yeah.
sure Tim's very excited. That's where he is this evening, is at practice.
Sessions?
Yep.
Yeah.
Started, yeah.
Excellent. Anything from the board?
How did the Rotary booth do at Harbor Fest?
We did all right. Again, there wasn't a big crowd. But yeah, I mean, we sold most everything out. And one thing that we didn't sell out of, which we usually do, is the ice cream. But
Huh?
it surprised me, but
Yeah.
I guess it's just because there wasn't, I mean, again, there wasn't a lot of people, but I think next year Rebecca will have a lot more time to work on it and get more vendors out, and we just seem to be shy on vendors, but with late notice, it's hard to,
Yeah.
you know, vendors usually start planning January
Yes.
of their summer activities, and
Yeah.
so I suspect next year will be a much better turnout.
Good.
Well, I can assure you, Bob, that if my children had their way, you would have sold out of ice cream.
Which I do have to thank Big Daddy's. They donate the ice cream every year to the Rotary Club
Wow.
to sell down there, and it's generous of them to do that, and it's good for the Rotary Club, and I burned my hands with Scott at the grill, so all is not lost.
In addition, the Wells IGA donated hamburgers, hot dogs, cheese, drinks, everything that we needed. They were fantastic. So,
Great.
and thank you to all the volunteers that came out, and you did a fantastic job
Thank you.
considering the short notice. So thank you.
We had a lot of help from donations around town too, so I appreciate that. Kennebunk Savings, IGA helped me out too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great event, and I'm glad we pulled it off this year, and look forward to it again next year, so.
I'm happy to say that we're having our second adventure into a golf tournament. It's a combination of the Wells Agunquit Senior Center and the Wells Warriors football team that work together for the benefit of the Senior Center and for the Wells Warriors. They get donations for the honor flights for the veterans, so it's a great combination. And where the golf tournament will be on September 12th. It'll be tee off at 11, it'll be at the Old Marsh. We have plenty of spaces open right now, and if anyone's interested in sponsoring a hole, yes, we can make it available for you. Thank you.
Kathy, who should they contact if they wanna donate or if they wanna come and play?
They can call Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 p.m., 646-7775 to the center. And they'll get you in touch with whatever you need to do, or you can call 207-468-9747, and that person will help you as well.
And then just one more thing that I'm particularly excited about is that we have Rebecca now watching social media again. We started doing this prior to COVID, and we had a format and it seemed to work very well. Obviously, we know that not everybody can make it out to these meetings, but still may have questions, so this was always a good avenue for people to be able to still, you know, participate in their local government. So I'm very excited that we're getting back on track with this. Seemed that there was some issues with our audio and connectivity, and of course, COVID mudded everything up, but with our new system, we seem to be getting things figured out, and I'm gonna be moving back in that direction, so I'm very excited about that, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, if there's nothing else, next we have an executive session to discuss the applicants to various committees pursuant to 1 MRS 4056A.
Are you ready?
Yep.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss the applicants to various boards and committees pursuant to 1 MRS 4056A.
Second.
All those in favor?
Let's go.
We're 0. Thank you. So,
Pass the signing logs and.
let's make